Hey there piglets, it's me Brody, otherwise known as Porcine Assembly Line, and welcome to another episode of the Golden Pig Review Show. If you haven't caught one of these before, this is how it works. I pick 3 tracks from the week's submissions, I play them in no particular order, I give a little bit of feedback after each one, stuff I liked, stuff I didn't like, anything that made me want to seal myself inside a refrigerator. And then after that I pick one track and award it with the Golden Pig Award, which is a very shiny and completely imaginary award. You may have noticed that I have a touch of the old man flu this evening. I'll try my best not to let it interfere with the delivery of the show. I've got a pretty good selection of tracks for you tonight, from the usual countries. Got one from the US, one from here in Australia, and one from the UK. And I have to warn you in advance that if you like sort of normal, middle-of-the-road music that's pretty similar to the stuff you're hearing on your radio, I would close this video and walk away now, because we're about to get really fucking weird. I picked 3 of the most interesting and bizarre tracks that were sent in to me. One of them is, somewhat listenable, but the other 2 are quite bizarre. So I'm going to enjoy it. I hope you do too. Let's take a look at the first track. Let's get our weirdest track for the evening out of the way, right up front and center, shall we? Our first track comes to us from Reno. I'm assuming that it's Reno, Nevada, in the US, from an act called Aloysius Scrimshaw. Now, Aloysius Scrimshaw has got a lot of tracks and has sent in stuff for me to listen to before on a previous week. But the track we're listening to today is called CAPTCHA, and that's spelt like those irritating CAPTCHA forms that you have to fill out on websites to prove that you're not a robot. It's described on Aloysius Scrimshaw's SoundCloud page as hard vapor. I'm not familiar with the whole vaporwave and hard vapor and all those subgenres, but I really enjoyed this when it was sent through. So I hope you enjoy it as well, but beware, it's really fucking weird. Let's take a listen now, eh? Every Every So that was CAPTCHA by Aloysius Scrimshaw. Good stuff. That tribal sounding beat, I think it's some congas or something like that. It's just very, very hypnotic sounding beat that comes and goes, particularly through the first 2/3 of the track. That was very enjoyable for me, as was the eerie, simple guitar line that started at about the halfway mark in the track, that then resolved into this just intense, erratic shredding. I think it really just boosted the dark and intense atmosphere in the middle of the track, which was quite nice. The multiple layers of heavily affected vocals, particularly the overlapping delays of those vocal lines, it just creates this chaos for the ear that is very difficult, very difficult to pinpoint, very difficult to ever relax while you're listening to the track, which I find really worked in this track. And the interplay of the various drones and feedback tracks with those vocal repeats and delays it just works. Just really works, particularly in this style of music, this sort of experimental, soundscapey style of music. The repeating lyrical theme, which I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, was something along the lines of "Every whore is a sage." I felt that was very strongly emphasised, and it must be an important part of the overall lyrical themes of the track. So I felt it was very clear, and it was a sort of a message that was meant to sink in, and maybe with repeated listens there's some additional layers of meaning to what you hear in the vocals that you can pick up. I haven't got there yet, but I'll definitely be listening to this track a few more times in the future. And the final thing that I would like to point out is that messy breakout near the end of the track where the drums get very intense and the feedback starts picking up and building. That was just magical. Really worked. So massive thumbs up to Aloysius Scrimshaw. Really enjoyed this track. I just had a little summary that I wrote down. It's completely disorienting and chaotic. CAPTCHA is an awesome glimpse in what seems to be a very dark and very much disquieted mind. So yeah, if you like this style of music, I would definitely check out the links in the description for Aloysius Scrimshaw. Our next track comes to us from an indie rock band called Go Robot. The track's called Smoke, and the band's from Surrey in the UK. Now, I don't normally mesh with a lot of the stuff that's being classified as indie rock these days. Like, my idea of good indie rock is probably the Pixies. But this track came in fairly late in the submissions for this week, and it really stood out to me because it's got a very interesting sound, and I would love to hear more sound like this. In fact, Go Robot are releasing their debut EP later on this year, according to the press release I received, and I would be very interested to hear how that stacks up with this track. It's a very good sound. Let's take a listen to it now, and I'll give you the rundown on what I thought afterwards. was Smoke by Go Robot out of the UK, their first single release. And yeah, when I heard that track, that just blew me away. That is like a really interesting mash of styles and sounds, really enjoyable, and it just gets me dancing. Anyway, the good stuff, the stuff I have really enjoyed about that. The thing that first strikes me is that effortless, beautiful, smooth voice that just, that carries the track. I feel like this dude's voice is just perfect, sublime. It's reminding me a lot of Alex Ebert from Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros in a lot of ways, and I quite enjoy that. I hope you appreciate the comparison there. The next thing that really stood out to me was this gentle and very subtle mix of light and shade in the music. It's quite upbeat, but there's an underlying darkness there in places that really just shines through at just for little moments, and I quite enjoyed that. The rhythmic variations between, I think it certainly sounds like there's live drums and a drum machine, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's what I was picking up. But those rhythmic variations are just magnificent. That repeating guitar phrase that comes in right at the start and then repeats itself a little way into the track, I just really like that. It's got this nice just flow to it, and it really works to set the tone and atmosphere of the track right from the start, but then of course that builds over time with lots of subtle variations and not so subtle variations in the instrumentation of the track. So it's just a really well crafted song, to be honest. Had nothing bad to say. I've had nothing bad to say about anything this week. It's some really high quality stuff. As a bit of a summary, what it sounded like to me, it kind of reminded me a little bit in sound to Radiohead, of all things, but significantly more sort of upbeat and uplifting than what you would expect from Radiohead. And with that voice, which I've already said once, kind of reminds me of Alex Ebert. So it's a very interesting sound, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the rest of the EP, guys. Let's move on to our final track, and then we can pick a golden pig. Alright, piggies, our third and final track for this week comes to us in video form. It's a very interesting video. The act is called Ambiojester. They're from Heathcote, which is just outside of my hometown of Bendigo. It's in Australia. The track is called Virtual Pilot Lights, and it's an experimental style. It's very weird, it's very different. I hope you enjoy it, I certainly do. And if you haven't caught an Ambiojester video clip before, you're in for a special treat. I'm going to leave my face up in the top corner somewhere so that you can see my reactions to the music as well.
Little pigs, little pig, let me come in.
So that was Virtual Pilot Lights by Ambiojester. Good stuff. I love the dark, unnerving vocals at the start of that. It just really creeped out and weird, and it's just really grabbed me. That's a really solid track. The overall groove of that track is just sublime. It's got that kind of, you know, that really strong energy of, like, you know, a lot of great industrial groups over time, as well as you know, several other, you know, key, I guess, electronic music figures that are escaping me right now. The thing that really sticks out as particularly awesome for me on that track is that big change when there's about 1:15 left in the track. That big change and that kind of, it's like a slowed down but much more intense swing to it, and it's just really really awesome. I really love that. That change there is the thing that really gets me over the line with this track. It's really solid. And the overall atmosphere of this track, and any Ambiojester track really, is just fucking awesome. Just really like it. So yeah, thumbs up to Ambiojester. Good work once again. And I guess a bit of a summary. I really love this sound, and I want to hear more of this type of stuff. If you know anyone that makes a similar sort of really weird and ambient and experimental sound like this, this is the sort of the stuff that really gets me humming, really gets me going. So good work. Let's move on to our award. Okay, piglets, in a week full of weird and unique and different sounding music, I find it as hard as ever to pick a winner. You know, I tossed over this for the last couple of days, and you know, at various points I'd chosen each of those tracks as the winner, but as of now, what I've come down to is that I really want to give it to Virtual Pilot Lights by Ambiojester. And the reason for it is that big change, that dramatic change in the, not the vibe, but the groove of the track with a full minute left to go, was a really bold choice, and I think it was pulled off extremely well. And you know, as I've sort of tried to point out there with how I've swung around on which one I think should win this week, any of those tracks could have taken it. And it always is a horse race. I get so much good music sent through each week that it's hard to pick. But for this week, Virtual Pilot Lights by Ambiojester is my pick for the Golden Pig. Tell your friends, tell your grandmother, tell your dog, please. If you have cool, interesting, or weird music, could just be, you know, a recording of ambient car park sounds in central Melbourne mixed with a virtuosic bass solo. I don't care. Send it in. I want to hear from you. You can send me an email at porcinassemblyline@gmail.com. It's in the description. Or you can reach out to me on Facebook, Twitter, even in a YouTube comment. Just let me know where to hear your music, and I'll come back to you, tell you if it's made the cut for the week's episode, and yeah, we'll take it from there. Until next time, I've been Brody, otherwise known as Porcine Assembly Line, and please send me your shit.